How do you prune and tie tomatoes to an arch trellis to get the most production? That's the question that we're going to answer in today's video. Welcome to the Gardenary channel. Garden plus ordinary equals Gardenary. So whether you're a beginner gardener or you're a pro gardener that's interested in starting your own garden coach business, Gardenary is the place for you. So today we're going to talk all about tomatoes. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit that little bell so that you get a notification every time we drop a new video. Now let's dive into today's topic, all about pruning and tying a tomato plant to an arch trellis to get the most production possible. Let's do it. Okay, so for today's video, the only things you need are an arch trellis, tomato plant, some clean pruners, and some twine. Now, if you missed our first video on the tutorial on setting up the arch trellis with your tomatoes in the first place, you can check that out on our channel. So this is assuming you've got your setup right, and now it's just time to take care of these tomatoes, keep them attached to the trellis, and get as much production as possible. So the first thing you want to do is prune your plant a little bit before you start to tie it onto your trellis, because you don't want to be tying pieces onto your trellis that you're going to prune away anyway. So I like to prune my tomato plants after the first set of flowers appear. And what I do once that first set of flowers appear is I start at the base of the plant and I kind of go up. Now when I prune, the first thing I'm looking for is any kind of leaf that doesn't look healthy. So it's got spots on it, holes in it, just looks like it's having a little bit of trouble. You know what I'm saying? So I'll start at the very base of the plant and just kind of search around. So if you want to see like this particular leaf right here, so it's just not looking great. I'm not trying to necessarily identify what's happening at this point. I just know I don't want this leaf on my plant. So I'm just going to come right to the base with clean pruners and I'm just going to cut it off just like that. So I'll continue this process all the way up the plant. Now if you have a serious disease in your plant or something really critical going on, then you're going to notice that you're having to prune away a lot of leaves, and that's not a good thing. So when I'm pruning, a rule I like to keep in mind is never prune more than 1/3 of the plant at a time. So if you need to prune more than 1/3 of the plant at a time, it might be time to say bye-bye to Miss Tomato Plant. All right, so the first step is I prune away the bad leaves. The next thing that I'm going to do is prune away leaves that are not necessarily going to be involved in fruit production. Again, remembering that I'm not going to prune more than 1/3 of the plant at any given time, so no more than 1/3 a week. So here what I do is I'll trace along one main vine of the plant. So I'm going up here and I'll start to notice where the plant is sending out a main leaf and then also where it's sending out a sucker. Now this is where my philosophy of tending tomatoes is quite different than the popular one. So most people will tell you to prune the sucker, but what I have found is I leave all the suckers because they're the ones that produce the most fruit, at least in my experience. So if you see here, this is the sucker stem and it's already starting to produce some flower buds, whereas this line right here is just a leaf. So I'll come to the L shape on my main stem and I'm going to cut away that leaf but leave the sucker. That means that on this main stem I'm going to have all producing, fruiting stems and none of these that are just sitting here hanging out. Now, the trick to this is you want to leave the top leaves for sure because you need that canopy on the plant and you need these leaves to be photosynthesizing for the tomato, obviously. So that's the pruning I'm going to do. I'm going to prune away the bad leaves at the bottom and then I'm going to go up and every time I see, not every time, but as I go up, I'm going to be selective and prune off some of the main leaves that I know, main stems that I know are not going to be fruit producing, prioritizing the suckers to produce the fruit for me. Those are the first two steps. And then there's only one main step left. So this is when you're going to have to be a little careful because if you're like me and you neglected your tomatoes for a week or two, then you're going to have had a lot of growth happen and these plants are not as attached to the trellis as they need to be. So really I should have been coming in here doing this, last weekend, maybe the weekend before. But life happens. So I'm going to very carefully take my plant and come to the next rung in my trellis. So This rung right here is gonna help support the plant. So I'm gonna hold it there, or gonna try to, pretend like I'm doing that. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of jute twine. Now, there's all kinds of fancy materials you can get at the store for twining and tying up tomatoes, but honestly, I just like jute. Jute is a natural fiber. It doesn't scar the plant at all, and it's super easy to untie when I'm done. So all I'm doing here is tying it right above the rung. So the rung's gonna help hold it in place. And now this tomato is gonna have nice support as it starts to go over the arch. So I'm gonna do that with each and every one of these stems. So I'll try to spread out my plant. So I'll do one more for you, and then I think you're gonna be ready to go. So we'll take a little bit more twine, probably, I don't know, 12 inches of twine is good. You can get a little twine ball like this for about, I don't know, $2 or something. Make sure your pruners, you might wanna have scissors there for your twine in case you love tools. And then I just like to tie a very simple bow. Now you wanna be careful here. You wanna remember that your tomato plants, these stems are very fragile. So as you're working, you know, just take your time. The last thing you wanna do is accidentally break off a fruiting stem, because that would be such a bummer. So you can see how many flowers we're starting to get already on this plant. And pretty soon this arch trellis is gonna be dripping with fruit. So that's all that's involved in pruning and tying your tomato plant to an arch trellis to get the most production possible. If you are growing tomatoes on an arch trellis, you gotta leave us a comment below. Tell me you are in, and let me know how it's going for you this season. And of course, send me a photo. I wanna see what your tomato arch trellis looks like. Thank you so much for watching the Gardenary channel. Thank you for bringing back the kitchen garden with us. Listen, if you want to take your garden game to the next level, you've got to check out my green thumb quiz. You can find the link to it at the bottom of this video. When you take the green thumb quiz, we're going to help you figure out where you are in terms of your progress on the Gardenary journey, and we'll give you resources to help you take it to the next level. Thanks again for bringing back the kitchen garden with me and my tomatoes. I'll see you later.